Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining On the Spot Motorsports Media. Tonight, we have Chaplain Phil Greene, that is part of the Racers for Christ organization. We're going to bring him on tonight and discuss everything that they do, all the way from a national event all the way down to our bracket races. But first, before we get started, we always like to jump in here and, uh, give our sponsors a little bit of an announcement. First thing we want to do is want to thank Miracle Automotive and Towing and Start. Hey, if you're broke down on the side of the road, hey, you don't have to pray for a miracle. Just pick up the telephone and call Miracle at 904-368-1114. Also, on the spot lawn maintenance for full service lawn care for you. That's right, the rains are starting to fall and the grass is starting to grow. Hey, if you need them to come out and give you an estimate, they can take care of that. Or just go ahead and cut your lawn. So give them a call at 904-966-1633. Also, Team GRE. That's right, Gouldsby Racing Enterprises. They take care of all of your automotive needs as far as wrapping vehicles. They can do storefronts and everything in between. If you need numbers for your race car, hey, give them a call at 352-270-7258. So we're going to bring Mr. Greene right on in.
Hey,
How you
Mitchell.
doing, Mr.
I'm good. How about yourself?
Doing great. I'm glad that you were able to take some time out of your busy schedule and join us tonight and
Me too.
talk a little bit about the Racers for Christ program.
Yes, I know we've been talking about doing this for a while. I'm glad we finally made it happen.
Well, first thing I would like to ask you is how did you become involved with RCF? I mean, RFC,
RFC?
sorry. Yes,
RFC,
RFC.
Racers for Christ. Uh, well, that's an interesting story. Several years ago, this was probably, gosh, I've been involved with them for over 15 years, probably about 18 years if I had to guess. Um, I'm a racer. I bracket race at Gainesville Raceway, it's my home track. And every day or every race before first round, we would play the national anthem. So one day I went to the manager at the time, Don Robertson, and asked him. I said, "Hey, Don," I said, "since we play the national anthem before before first round every race, why don't we have a prayer?" And he said, "Well, if we did that, we'd have to get a pastor in here," and he had some reasons. And I said, "Well, I said we don't need a pastor. I can do it. I can go say the prayer before the national anthem." And he said, "Well, all right, just keep it short and sweet." I was like, "Okay, no problem." So I started doing that. I was not involved with RFC at the time. I just was doing it on my own because I thought it was something that we needed. So one night, Tom Ratliff, who we'll talk about him later too, he is our RFC Region 2 director. But he happened to be there one night at a super gas event that was going on at Gainesville along with our bracket race. And I had gone up to say the invocation, and I came back down. I'm walking through the staging lanes, and Tom stops me. He says, "Hey, Phil, you should be a RFC chaplain." And I was like, "Oh, no, 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 no. I can't do what you do, Tom." And he's like, "I don't want you to do what I do. I want you to do what you do." So anyway, I turned it down, and I was like, "No, I can't do that." So every time I would see Tom afterwards, he would ask me, "Hey, when are you going to be a chaplain? When are you going to be a chaplain?" And I fought it for probably a couple of years. Well, one day I'm a deacon at my home church, and we were assigned the book Purpose Driven Life. We were reading that as a deacon body. And I'm not much of a reader. I mean, I can read, but I don't like to read. So anyway, I was reading it, and it had my interest. And one night I'm sitting there on my couch reading, and Missy was sitting over on the other couch. And I got to this chapter, and in the chapter it said, "Find your passion and make that your ministry." And I kind of skimmed through that, and I read down a few more lines, and then a light bulb went on. I was like, "Wait a minute, back up. And I went back and I read that again. It said, find your passion and make that your ministry. And I thought, well, gosh, I'm passionate about racing. That's my life. That's my it's more than a hobby. It's a lifestyle. It's a passion for sure. So I read it one more time. I closed the book. I looked over at Missy and I said, I'm calling Tom Ratliff tomorrow. And she looked at me and said, okay, why? I said, I'm going to be an RFC chaplain. And she said, okay. So I called Tom the next day. He got me started on the application process. And here we are 18-ish years later.
Yeah, and I tell y'all do such a great service for us racers. We're in a sport that, in a blink of an eye, anything can actually happen.
Yep.
And to have that support of going to y'all and having a prayer, said before we make our runs is a really big deal to a lot of us. And, we want to thank you, and everyone else with RFC, a big thank you for providing that service for us.
Well, you're welcome. I appreciate the kind words.
Now, y'all do certain things depending on different levels, from national events to bracket racing. And, I've seen y'all in action there at the Gator Nationals, being a national event. Can you kind of describe of some of the things that y'all do there?
At a national event?
Yes.
Sure. Okay, so at a national event, we have, well, like I said, you have Tom Ratliff, who is our Region 2 director. Region 2 is just like, there's 7 regions in the country, and they're broken up just like the NHRA divisions are. We're Division 2 for NHRA, we're Region 2 for RSC. So Tom is our Region 2 director. So at a national event, he will be there at any national event at a track in his division or his region. And he has staff, or volunteer staff, because most of it, 95% of RFC is volunteer. So he'll have his volunteer staff there. He'll have, at Gainesville, at Gator Nationals, I think we had 4 or 5 chaplains there as volunteers. So he'll have us there as well. But the main guy, if you will, is Eddie Bauer. He is our national event chaplain. He goes around to all the national events. Him and his wife, Kelly, I don't want to leave her out. She's a very important part of it as well. They go to all the national events, and they cater to the professional teams, and Eddie does the chapel service on Sunday mornings. So he's busy with the professional teams, and Tom, he knows most of the sportsman guys that are there. So he kind of, ministers to them, but he also gets us involved as well. He will assign each of us a class to be with when they're in the staging lanes. Like he may give me super street and super comp, so I have to be in the lanes when they're running, to be there to pray with them, to talk to them, whatever. Because we are a ministry of presence. We just like to be visible. We like to be available for the racers, whether they just want to talk, whether they just want to pray. If they have an accident, of course, we'll be there on the scene to help with family members, talk to them, pray with them, go to the hospital with them if need be. Obviously, that's not one of the more pleasant things that we have to do, but it is sometimes a necessity. So anyway, we'll be in the lanes at our assigned times, and then when we're not in the lanes, we are out in the field, out in the pits, in the pits, just circulating, visiting, inviting people to chapel service, just building relationships, really. I mean, that's our main focus, is to build relationships, because once you build those relationships, those walls break down and people will start opening up to you. And, they might tell you about, an issue they're having, or a prayer request, or, an illness in the family. And then the ministry really starts to take off after that.
Yeah, and I tell you, one of the great things I like international events is the opportunity for all the teams and crew members and even the spectators. They can go to that chaplain service uh,
Yes,
before uh, before eliminations happen on Sunday.
yes,
You have to be up really early because I think this past
yeah.
year at the Gators, I think it started at 7:30. So you have to be an
Uh,
early riser. And
yeah, actually,
I tell you,
the Gator National Service started at 7 a.m. And remember, that is the week that the time changes. So really, it was like 6 a.m. So yeah, you have to want to go. However, with that said, I think this year we had almost 150 people at the chapel service on Sunday morning. So that was pretty impressive.
yeah, and I tell you, I think Mike Booker was there as well, and he's actually a minister up in Ohio. He preaches and has church service up there, and he's also a top fuel driver,
Oh,
uh, part time. And one of the things leading up to the Gator Nationals was, Bernie Speed Shop had their big open house.
right,
It kind of felt like being at Indianapolis, before the big go. Uh, and a lot of people were there representing RFC.
great.
And so it was a great opportunity. And the ones that you were talking about that, you know, pretty much cater to the pro drivers, I met them in person and just two great and wonderful people.
Yes, yes, definitely.
And I asked them if they knew you, and they were like, "I don't know." No, I'm just kidding. They knew you very well, Phil, and they had some really nice words to say about you.
Oh, good. Glad to hear that.
So, what did y'all do, like on a local level, for bracket races and the ET finals?
Okay. On the local level, like at your local Saturday night track, like Gainesville is for me. We have two chaplains there. We have me, and we also have Tim Goolsby, who came on last year or the year before, something like that. He's been a great help. Um, but what we do there is again much the same thing. If it's just a 1 day Saturday event, we're just kind of there as to be present, to build relationships. Again, if there's a wreck or something, we'll respond to that. Now, when I say respond to that, don't get me wrong. We're not out there on the track getting in the way of the
Right.
EMTs and whatnot. We are there, standing off to the side. We'll check on the driver, make sure he's okay. We will intercept any family that's running up there in a panic to try to, calm them down and let the EMTs do their work. And again, we'll go to the hospital with the racer and family if need be. But for the main part, we are just there as support and to be there, just to be present. Uh, we do an invocation before the first round, like I was talking about earlier. If it's a 2 day race, a Saturday Sunday event, then we always like to have a chapel service on Sunday morning before first round. But other than that, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Ministry of presence and building relationships.
And I tell you, there's the chapel service there at Gainesville on Sunday is great for me because I go to church, and I had a pastor one time. He's no longer the pastor at church, but he came up to me one Sunday and he says, "Hey, Mitchell, I know you like racing and stuff, but you need to be in church on Sundays." And I said, I am at church on Sundays." "Well, you're not here." I said, "I
Right,
know, I'm at the racetrack." I said, "We have church service there." And he
right,
goes, "You do?" I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Look up Racers for Christ. I'd like you to do that and let you see what they do for the racers, that they give us that opportunity of still getting the word that we need on Sunday, and always are there to pray for us if we need prayers to be done."
right.
Now, one of the things that we have started doing here lately with you and Tim Goolsby is we've had Santi Rodriguez come in and he sings
Yeah,
a hymn
yeah, it's
before
been
we
great.
go to service. And I tell you what, having him come up there and sing a hymn ahead of time, it kind of helps set the mood. It really does, and I want to thank him as well.
Absolutely, yes. He has been a huge help. I think we've used him twice so far. We've only had two chapel services that he's been involved with, but yeah, I hope he's helps us with all of them. It is a great addition, that's for sure. I've really enjoyed having him. Like you said, it helps set the mood and it gives us a little something more to look forward to.
And Santi, he had an accident over a year ago at
Right?
Gainesville, and it was a freak accident. I believe a rock or a pebble got stuck in the throttle blades, and when he fired up his motorcycle, it just put it right into gear, and he took off and went right behind the water boxes, and he had a lot of prayers going for him that day. I know you were down there praying for him, and a
Yep.
lot of people back in the pits were saying a lot of prayers, and that
Yeah, that was
continued.
a wild ride for sure. In fact, we are talking about hospital visits. That night, Tim went with him. Tim Goolsby went to the hospital with him. And then the very next week, another motorcycle rider wrecked out on the track. And so that one I went out with Jeremy Davis, went to the hospital with him. And, it's funny you bring this up because, I know a lot of the motorcycle racers. I don't know them well. And that's, bad on my part. But since Santi and Jeremy got in those wrecks, I feel like I have, two new good friends out of it, just, through the RFC ministry. It's, again, it's just that relationship building process. They're two good guys for sure.
Well, the Lord puts you in those places because they may not have faith uh, in the Lord, and that gives you the opportunity of being there helping them, and they're like, you know what, maybe I should take part, go to church,
Right.
uh,
Well, fortunately,
start
both of
believing
those
in the
guys,
Lord. Accept Him in my heart.
were already believers. So that's a
Yes.
good thing. But yeah, it may have strengthened their faith. Like I said, if nothing else, they got a new friend out of it. And it may have been part of why Santi is singing for us now.
Yeah, he seems like he is happy every Sunday, and he's hauling that speaker system up there, and I think he gets excited about it. And I tell you, he's a great singer.
Yeah. Yeah. You certainly don't want me up there singing. So I'm glad he's with us.
Phil, me and you both. I can't carry a tune in a 5-gallon bucket with a lid
No,
on top of it.
I'm not musical at all. I have a hard time playing the radio. So, however,
Now
people
let's.
do tell me I have a face for radio. So,
Well, me and you both. I'm surprised my camera's still working and doesn't have a crack in it. Well, I want to talk also a little bit about bracket racing and how you got involved in bracket racing. I know your Camaro that you have, you've actually had that car ever since you were in high school.
I did. Yes. It was my very first car. I bought it 2 days before I turned 16. We won't talk about how many years ago that was. But yeah, I drove it to high school. I went on my first date in it. I drove to the prom with my date. I drove it to college. Yeah, so it just slowly morphed into the race car you see today. It's not a, street car anymore. But what happened was I've always had an interest in fast cars, and I kind of have to blame my mom for that. She was into fast cars. I had a cousin that had a bunch of fast street cars. So growing up, I was around them quite a bit. So I always had an interest. So when I got the Camaro, I wanted to see how fast it would go. So I ended up taking it to the racetrack. This was after I graduated, but I took it to the racetrack and made a couple passes in it. my goal then was just to see how fast it would go. So at that point, I was more interested in the time runs to see how fast it would go. Then first round would come around, and I knew, okay, well, this is my last pass because I was going to get beat and have to go home. So that went on for a while, and then suddenly I started accidentally winning rounds. I didn't know what I was doing. I just started accidentally winning rounds. So then after I started figuring it out, I'm like, okay, well, this is kind of cool. I see what the competition part is about. I'm figuring out what these numbers mean. And so then I started getting excited about the eliminations part of it. And then, like I said, the car after that, after I got hooked on the competition part, because I'm very competitive anyway. After I figured that part of it out, I just started making the car into, like I said, the bracket car you see today. It's way different than the car I had in high school, I can tell you that, but it is the same car for 30 something years.
So what do you got up underneath the hood there, Phil?
Now it's new to me this year. It's a 434 small block Chevrolet, aftermarket block, of course. Running really good. I'm really happy with it. It's faster than the car's ever been, of course, and it is just printing tickets off like a Xerox machine. The car has been great. I've had some adjusting to do on my end, on the driver end, but I think I'm about to get a handle on that and hopefully going to start being competitive again.
Well, bracket racing is a great sport for everyone. It doesn't matter if you have a 17-second car or you have a rail running 390s, 4 flat in the 8th mile.
Right.
It's a great sport. It's very competitive, and it's very hard. And I think there will be more people out there bracket racing if they were more educated on it. That's my feeling. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of people might get intimidated by it, saying, "Oh, I can't do that." And I'll be honest, I was like that for a little while. But I also have to blame my good friend, my good high school friend, Joe Pinkston, a little bit, because in high school he had an old Chevelle, a '69 Chevelle that he was taking up there to race, and that's one of the reasons I first went up to Gainesville Raceway to watch was to see him. So I guess I should be blaming him for this addiction as well. But yes, you're right. Anybody can do it. You can take your minivan out there. You can take your daily driver out there. You can take your pickup truck out there. What I tell people is you can go from mile to wild. You don't have to spend a fortune. You'll end up spending a fortune probably, but you don't have to spend a fortune to go out there and have fun, win a few rounds, be competitive. And I tell you, it's some of the best friends I have are out there. They're more than friends; they're family to us. We have a racing family for sure. In fact,
Exactly.
I'll tell you a quick story. Several years ago, there was a couple at church. They sat behind us. They were a little bit older than Missy and I, and they knew that I raced. And he was mechanical. I won't say he was a car guy, but he was mechanical and interested in cars. So he would ask me about racing. And at this one particular time, he was asking about it, and our season hadn't started yet. It was starting like in a couple of weeks. And so I told him, I said, "Hey, if y'all want to come up to the track early." I said, "I'll give you a tour. I'll take you up in the tower. I'll show you around." So sure enough, they did. They showed up. I showed them around, gave them a tour. And then as we're back at the pit, they're hanging out at the pit as I'm getting unloaded and getting stuff ready. And again, this was the first race of the season. And this is when we didn't start our point season at Gainesville until after the Gator Nationals. Right. So, a lot of us regular Gainesville racers hadn't seen each other since like October. So, anyway, I'm getting ready and people are steady coming up to me, shaking my hand, giving me a hug, honking their horn as they drive by, coming up asking if, to borrow something or what have you. Anyway, so all this goes on. The couple that came up to watch, they had left second or third round or something like that. And I see them the next morning at church. And I said, "Hey, I hope y'all had a good time last night." And they're like, "Oh yeah, we did. We really enjoyed it." I said, "Good." And Mark, the gentleman, he says, "Phil, I want to tell you something though." He said, "You don't have any friends up there." And I looked at him kind of funny. I was like, I'm sorry. What do you mean? Because you don't have any friends. You have a family up there. And I thought that was really neat because, I didn't tell him that we felt like we were all family. I mean, he just got that. He got that vibe from just hanging out there for a couple rounds. And I thought that was really cool. That spoke a lot.
Yeah, well, we like to joke around and hang out and cook and eat together, and
Yep.
your competitor breaks next to you. It's been plenty of times. I'll mention way back. This has been a few years, and Jeff Barrier probably remembers this, and probably still dislikes the situation. But we were running in a different race. It wasn't an ET bracket race. It was DragRaceResults.com was putting on
I
a
remember that
series,
series. Yeah.
and me and Jeff, we made it to the final round, and Jeff's car wouldn't crank. So Jeff gets out of the car. He says, "Can you give me some time?" I said, "Man, take all the time that you want." I says, "Until they tell me I've got to get out of these staging lanes, I'm staying parked right here." And so they tried and they tried and tried to get that car to crank. And about that time, they're doing this to me, motion me on up. Come on up. So I'm dragging. I am barely moving the car forward, taking my time, trying to give Jeff as much time as possible to get the
Sure.
car to crank. And so it was just to the point where they said, "Hey, you got to get in the water box and do your burnout." So I do the burnout, and I'm itching up to put on the pre-stage bulbs. And about that time, Jeff's car cranked, and they would not let him come in. They told him he
Oh,
was done.
no.
Yeah. So, and that's how that happened. But a few weeks later, we was up in South Georgia, and I gave him a win back because I went red. so
Oh, yeah.
so we were able both
Well, you know how it is.
to win one of those races in that series. So it was a lot of fun. But that's what we do for each other. I mean, if someone needs a hose, hey, we'll look for a hose, or say, "Hey, we got so long before the next round. Jump in the car. We'll ride up to AutoZone. We'll get it fixed. Let's go get a hose for you." And
Oh,
and you're
yeah.
right. It's a family. You can't find that compassion in a sport like that everybody wants to help and make sure that you're up there for the next round. No one likes to go down the track with a bye run, not unless it's earned. We don't. I don't
Yeah.
care for a competition bye. Now, I mean, I'll take it, but I'd rather run against somebody.
You'd rather
Uh,
earn it. Absolutely. Yes. I was in
Absolutely.
uh, I was in Bristol at the World Foot Brake Challenge a few years ago, and uh, we were under the tower about to roll out, and the guy next to me, the guy I was paired with, couldn't start, and they came up to me and said, "Phil, you got two choices. You can give him the 2 minute clock. We're going to put him on a 2 minute clock. If he doesn't get started, you can go stage, or you can pull over and wait till the end of the round." And I said, I'll pull over. So I pulled out of the staging lanes, pulled over by the fence, and waited. And I said, look, I said, we both came a long ways to race. I want to race. So to make a long story short, he ended up getting the car fired up just at the very end of the round. I didn't think he was going to make it, but he did. And we were able to race. And I'm thinking, okay, this guy's rattled now. He's not going to be able to hit the tree and drive right. But I went out there and I didn't take him for granted. I went out there, I laid down a good package. I think I was 10 dead six, no good. He was 10 total. And I was shocked, to be honest with you. And this was first round. And to show you his sportsmanship, he found me in the pits. I didn't know him. We'd never met, but he found me in the pits, thanked me, and tried to pay for my buyback. But I wouldn't let him. But anyway, yeah, that's the kind of sportsmanship we have.
Oh yeah, it is absolutely great. Um, Tell us a little bit about the story of you going out to Pomona. What was that? 2 years
Uh,
ago, we went up to Rockingham for the
uh,
divisional finals, and it
right.
rained and rained, and it
Yeah.
wasn't really a heavy rain. It was just a mist that just wouldn't quit. after first
Just
round.
enough to stop us from racing.
But you were able to win the day before in the race of champions. You know,
Right.
something also Monica has been able to do.
Yep.
But you were, since it rained the rest of the event out, they picked the winners of the race of champions to go to Pomona.
Yes, that was a great trip. Yes, you're right. I won the race of champions on Friday night, which to me was the race to win. I've never won the division finals, the actual main event. Been close a couple times, but haven't been able to put a bow on that one. But it's coming. But yes, I won the race of champions the night before. Uh, like you said, the race got rained out. I think it was second or third round. They finally decided to pull the plug on the main event. So I got to go to Vegas. Cody Savage, our divisional director, came up to me and he says, "Phil, are you going to go to Vegas?" And I looked at him. I said, "Well, when is it?" And he said, told me the dates. And I thought about it. I said, "Cody, that's in 3 weeks." And he goes, "Yeah, I know. Thanks for telling me." So I was like, "Yeah, I have to go. You know, it could be a once in a lifetime event for me. You know, so yeah, I'm going to make it happen." So went out there. Me and Missy loaded up in the motorhome and left on I think we left Friday after work. We had to be out there like Wednesday, I believe, at the track. So anyway, yeah, we took our time getting out there, made several stops along the way, had a great time. Um, got to take Roy Hagedorn's motorcycle with me. He won the race champions in the motorcycle class. So he asked me to if I would put his bike in my trailer. So I left my golf cart at home so I could take his bike with me. So I got to hang out with him and the Mockneys that week. We had a blast. But anyway, yeah, me and Missy made our way out there. We stopped at her sister's house on the way. We stopped at the Grand Canyon. We stopped in Winslow, Arizona, to stand on the corner. That's a real place. Um, had a good time. I lost first round in the event, but I tell you what, I would leave tomorrow morning to go do it all over again. On the way back, we did have a little misfortune. Actually, Missy ended up flying back home, and Monica, who had flown out there with Timothy and Daniel and Alexi, the rest of the kids, Monica rode back with me while everybody else flew home. And we were coming through Louisiana on the way home. We took a different route home, but had a wheel bearing burn up on the motorhome at about 9:30, 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night. So that was fun trying to get that fixed. Ended up having to leave everything up there in Louisiana, rent a car to get home, and then go back the next weekend to pick it all up. But again, even with that, like I said, I would leave tomorrow morning to go do it all over again, and I hope to get another shot at it for sure.
Yeah, you had a bunch of us calling around trying to find y'all rental cars that day.
I tell you, well, once I exhausted all of my, this goes back to that family thing again. Once I had exhausted all my options there locally, I was in Hammond, Louisiana. Do you know where Hammond, Louisiana is?
I think I've been through. I mean, I've had to go through there because I've been all the way out to Mission Viejo, California, which is not too far from
Oh,
Pomona, and so
okay.
I've probably been
Well,
through
yeah. Well,
there.
there's not a whole lot in Hammond. But anyway, I exhausted all my immediate options there as far as car rentals and or actually truck rentals to try to get my trailer home at least, even if I had to leave the motor home there. But anyway, once I was out of ideas there, I put word out on Facebook that I was broke down and needed suggestions and help, and my phone started blowing up. Uh, People calling, offering me trucks and to come get me, and one thing led to another, and another racer out there who I had never met came and got me. He stored my trailer and car at his place while the motorhome was getting fixed, and drove me 30 miles to the next nearest town to get a rental car so I could get me and Monica and my dogs home. And uh, it's just that community we were talking about.
Oh yeah, it's very tight. And I see Brandon George on. He's actually had the opportunity to go out there for divisional finals. I believe that happened
Twice.
last year. Yeah, twice. And the most recent was last year,
Yes,
I do believe. Yeah. And
it was. Yeah,
did you see what he said? Yeah,
probably. What did he say?
I'll flash it up there. He says, Phil,
Oh.
never done anything that nice for me. Talking about that you waited for the guy up there at Bristol.
He doesn't deserve anything that night. No, I'm just kidding. I love Brendan.
And we got Tim
And
Goolsby
no, I
joining
can't.
us as well.
Hey, Tim, we were just
But
talking about you a little bit ago.
yeah, it is a great community. It really is, and I think that's the reason why I love this sport. You know,
It's
and
definitely about the people. I mean, we go out there, we get beat up on the racetrack, and we get aggravated with the cars and or our performance, but it's really about the people, the fellowship. That's for sure.
and 90% of the time, I would say 95% of the time, if you lose a race, it's on you. It's not on
Oh
the other
yeah,
person. You've
yeah.
got to be
I'd say
really good on your
that's right.
reaction times, and your car's got to be very stout of being very competitive and running that same dial in, or you have to be smart and keep up with the weather and do the math and change your dial, which I didn't do very good a couple of weeks ago when something told me to put a 57 on there. And I'm like, no, I put a 60. It's warming up, and the car runs 57. You know, those types of things happen to you.
Yeah, we've all been there. But yeah, it's a sport where you can do everything right and still lose. You know, I love the people that tell me like, the circle track racers will tell you, oh yeah, anybody can drive a car straight. That's easy. I always go, well, strap on in here, get in the car, see how you do. But I haven't been taken up on that yet.
Well, that's the same thing with my nephew, which he runs Legends. He started out in quarter midgets, and now he runs Legends all over the Southeast United States. And he came out there to watch one weekend, and he goes, "It looks so easy. Looks like there's nothing to it. What do? You just leave and you go down and you slow up after you go through the traps down there." I was
Yeah,
like,
that's
"Oh
all there is to it.
yeah. It's that easy." I said, "Do you want to try it?" Because
Yeah.
I'll put him in the car. I trust him. But at that time, he wasn't 16 years of age, but now he is 16 years of age. And I mean, he's running
Yeah,
115, 120 miles on an oval at times. So I would trust him in the car. And
right.
he's like,
Well, there
"No,
are people out there to
I
make
don't think I'll do it this weekend."
there are people out there that make bracket racing look easy, but they'll tell you it's not.
Um, and one of the greatest I would say bracket racers is Luke Bagaki. I mean, just tore it up for years. Um,
Oh yeah,
and we got some really great racers out of Gainesville as well.
there are. We do have some tough racers there for sure.
And I would like to mention them, but I'm afraid I might leave one of their names out, so they'll be at the next race. Hey, why didn't you say me?
Right.
but But even over in our True Street class, even though we don't have as many cars as Pro and Super Pro, but we've had a lot of people that's over there that's been track champions. You take Daniel Salyers, for instance. He's been a promoter and competed out
Yep.
there. We got Brett Veneman, another tough customer. He's
Yep.
been away for a while. He's back this year, and he looks like he's never even skipped a beat. I mean, he's on it.
No.
Got
Yeah, he's always been
Bart
tough for sure.
Pagillian. Bart
Bart, you can't.
Pagillian's
Yeah,
very
don't take
good.
him lightly.
Very hard racer to race against. Monica, uh, she's great. Uh, which she's
She
won
has
a
her
couple of
moment.
race for champions. So, uh, and I know
Yeah,
last year
she's
Chris Parisi couldn't go and do race of champions, so Monica was the next in line in points. So she got the opportunity again and runner up. Almost walked away with another
yep.
Wally.
Well, no, when Chris couldn't go. That's when Monica won Race Champions. And
Okay,
then last year at South Georgia, Bart wasn't able to run, and she runnered up.
that's what it was. Yes,
Yes.
and she's tough. I don't take her lightly, and
Yeah, she
she has
must
sent
have a
me
good
home
coach.
several times.
Yeah.
Several times.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
she has beat me way more than I have beat her.
Well, we don't keep record, but we'll take your word for it.
But yeah, it's just a great competitive sport where you can leave your friendship at the tree, and you can pick your friendship back up after the traps.
Right. Right. Definitely.
Well, Phil, I want to thank you for coming on here tonight and us talking about Racers for Christ and what a great organization they are for all of us racers. Not just drag racing; they're there for the boat races, NASCAR,
Yes.
all those
That's one
different
thing I wanted
organization
to
bodies.
say. That's one thing I wanted to say earlier too. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, we are a motorsports ministry, uh, and in the southeast we do cater mostly to drag racing. But yeah, across the country we're involved in boat racing, oval dirt track racing, uh, motorcycle racing, rock crawling, basically anything with a motor, any competitive thing with a motor. We also have Rodders for Christ, which caters to car shows. About the only thing you mentioned NASCAR, we're not involved in NASCAR. NASCAR has their own ministry, but we
Okay.
do some circle track stuff around the country as well. But like I said, here in the Southeast, we're mostly dedicated to drag racing.
Well, y'all do a fine job, and while you got you on here, I want to talk about a couple of events that are coming up at Gainesville, and one's this weekend, and that is the
Yes,
spring bracket bash. So if you're
yes,
watching tonight or you're watching tomorrow, want to have an opportunity to go out and watch some great racing, head out to Gainesville Raceway. You would definitely see it. If you're something that you might be interested in getting in, you can walk up to any of the racers and they'll be gladly to talk to you about it. And then the 352 shootout, it has been postponed back to its original date in October. And so we're looking forward to that. And in the place of that, at the end of the month, we got the Gatortown Throwdown. Are you racing in this, Phil?
I am. Yeah, that is the plan. I will be there.
Well,
And
we're
in
going to
fact, let
have
me
the
say
opportunity.
something about let me
Sure.
say something about those two events coming up. We talked about how RFC does chapel services on Sundays, and this was Tim Goolsby's idea, or I believe it was Tim's idea. He brought it to my attention anyway. Uh, on those Saturday only events, we're not going to do a chapel service like we do on Sunday morning, but at 8:30 a.m. on those mornings, the spring bracket bash as well as the Gatortown Throwdown race. Those Saturdays at 8:30, we're going to do a prayer at the pole. We're going to meet at the flagpole, and this is open to anybody, just like a chapel service. You can be a racer, a crew member, a track staff, a spectator, whoever can come join us at the flagpole, and we're going to do prayer requests.
Well, we just lost Phil, but what he was talking about, they're going to. Here he is. He's hopping back in. So he probably had someone trying to call him. But that's a great idea, Phil, to have prayer around the flagpole on that Saturday for everyone.
Yep.
It really is.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right. Well, it was nice for you to join us, and we're going to be live streaming the Gator Town Throwdown right here on the Spot Motorsports as we do all of our bracket races. Got some great news. I have actually broke down and bought a new laptop, so I'm hoping the upload speed is quicker with the new one than the old one, and maybe that'll cut down on a little bit of the dragging out. You know, it's funny when it does it because the race car looks like it's about 20 feet long when it
Yeah,
starts
yeah,
like that. So hopefully that'll solve
right.
some of our issues. But we're still slowly growing and trying to get better and better equipment. And we're just thrilled that Jody Kennedy there at the track has given us that opportunity to do what we do
Yeah,
here.
Jody, she's
It's the second year.
yeah, she's been great, very accommodating with a lot of the racers, and certainly with RFC. She's over the top accommodating with anything that we need to do with the ministry for sure. And we thank you for the live streaming. I have a sister-in-law lives up in North Carolina, and she watches it as much as possible. So she's thankful for you as well.
Yeah, and that's what's so important. We know we have a lot of family members that can't make it due to health issues or distance that has to be traveled, and we're glad that can provide those services. And and it helps us to get our name out there as well, as we will be
Sure.
hopefully adding more cameras and more angles as we go on to provide better coverage. And I always tell people, if you're watching the race and you're at the house, don't watch it on your computer or your cell phone. If you got a smart TV, you can go to our YouTube page, and it looks really nice on a 70-inch TV. So
Right.
it's really hard to see some of the stuff on the phones. So
Right.
we can't help that due to the layouts of the page. If we try to do something like we're doing tonight, it will cut half the track off in both directions, either down the track or with the camera facing. But
Right.
we're hoping maybe at the end of the year, if not the beginning of next year, we'll have two more HDMI receivers and transmitters, and we'll be able to put a camera down there at the traps uh, for
Oh, good, nice.
for the 8th mile. I'm not going to jump back and forth and move the camera for sportsmen. That's just too much running around
Oh,
and
right.
trying to race at the same time. But we'll at least try to set
Right.
one up at the 8th mile at the stripe. Uh, so just bear with us. We're growing. And it takes a little time, and some of this stuff is not cheap, as I'm starting to find out.
Right. Well, now that you've had me on, your viewership's going to explode. So I'm sure that you can get, plenty of sponsors now.
Oh yeah, I mean, you think about it, you're following up behind Chance Van Sant that we had on. We've had
Right.
Miss Tammy Bandemir on the week before that. We've had Alan Pazinski, Erica
Erica.
Andrews, Christian Quadra, Josh Hart, Justin Ashley. I mean, just the names go on, and now your name is etched into the brick right along with theirs
How
for
about that?
being a guest.
Right. There you go. They'll be honored.
Well, I'll tell you what, I appreciate you, Phil, and hopefully I'll be seeing you here in a couple of weeks if the Lord's will, and we'll see you at the end of April for the Gator Town Throwdown. I'm really looking forward to it, and Ben and Tim Goolsby both, Ben Whiting, they've been working hard on this thing, trying to get everything put together in 4 weeks, and I'm trying to
Right.
push it as much as I can on my end to help them out as well. Uh, if racers don't have nothing to do in South Florida, they need to come up for this and support it. And to give it the opportunity to grow and turn into something really great.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good event.
Well, Phil, we're going to let you go. Thank you again, and you have a good evening.
All right. Thank you, Mitchell. You too. Bye-bye.
There goes Phil, and we want to thank everyone for jumping on and watching us tonight. Also, don't forget, the Four Wide Nationals in Las Vegas is happening this weekend, so we're looking forward to watching that, and we'll keep you up to dates on the happening and qualifying on Friday and Saturday. But we will not release the winners into our teams. Start making those posts on Facebook. Other than that, we will wait to the entire schedule on TV is done before we make those announcements, because we want people to be able to watch it and enjoy it. But until then, we thank you, and we will see you hopefully next Thursday night. We are working on the guest, and everyone take care. Have a great night.